Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Listography. Today we're going to be talking about Queen. We've got 16 records to look at, so let's get into it. Number 16 is going to be the Flash Gordon soundtrack. Thought about whether or not to even include this. Not a lot here in the way of actual songs. It's mostly an instrumental record. This record does have its fans. However, I don't find it to be all that interesting, and that is why it is at the bottom of my list. Number 15 is going to be Queen and Paul Rodgers, The Cosmos Rock. Putting this record down near the bottom of my list has nothing to do with Paul Rodgers. I think he's a fantastic singer. It's just not that great of a record. If Freddie was the singer on this record, it would be equally disappointing. They play it safe in songwriting, in the production, in basically every aspect of this record, and not much memorable material. Number 14 is going to be Innuendo, the final record that they released during Freddie's life. The title track, Innuendo, is a masterpiece, probably the best song of the second half of their career. The second track on the record, I'm Going Slightly Mad, is very good as well. After that, there's not much memorable material. Not a big fan of the production, and that is why it sits at number 14. Number 13, Made in Heaven. This is the posthumous release coming out a few years after Freddie's death. Not really any standout tracks on this record, nothing that is great, but I like the production a little bit better than on Innuendo, and I think it is a more consistent record. There's decent, enjoyable songs throughout pretty much the whole record. Number 12 is going to be A Kind of Magic. So starting in 1984 with the record The Works, Queen kind of settled into a sound, playing it safe a bit from there on out. Prior to that, they were one of the most adventurous bands ever. They would try different genres on like hats, bouncing from style to style. But you get to the mid-'80s and they kind of just find a sound and stick to it. A Kind of Magic falls after The Works, so this is one of those records where basically these records are indistinguishable from one another. There's not a lot to talk about differences between them, except for maybe minor production tweaks. So all I can really do is compare the quality of songwriting, and this is one of the weaker batches. The standout track here is One Vision. 1 Year of Love, A Kind of Magic, and Who Wants to Live Forever are decent as well, but overall, not a very memorable batch of songs. Number 11, Sheer Heart Attack. This is their third record, a record that falls right in the middle of one of the greatest hot streaks in rock and roll. Queen 1, Queen 2, Night at the Opera and Day at the Races. This right in the middle of those records, and somehow just falls flat. Not that memorable. It's not epic and bombastic the way Queen 2 is. It doesn't bounce from genre to genre the way A Night at the Opera does. I think it was an attempt at sort of a dirtier, grittier, more straight-ahead rock sound, but it just doesn't connect. The songwriting isn't quite there. The obvious standout here is Killer Queen. A couple other okay songs like Tenement Funster, Flick of the Wrist, and Now I'm Here, but overall not the greatest songs. Number 10, The Miracle. So this is another record from that latter period of their career. Sounds similar to The Works. It sounds similar to A Kind of Magic. A few songs here that really make it stick out above those, or above A Kind of Magic at least, would be I Want It All, probably the best rock song of the later part of their career. The Miracle and Invisible Man are pretty good tracks as well. Number 9, The Works. So this is the beginning of that sort of more generic sound that they started sticking to around this time. However, you do have a couple classic Queen songs on this album that put it ahead of the others. You got Radio Gaga, you've got I Want to Break Free, and Hammer to Fall. It's a Hard Life is a decent song as well. Number 8, going with jazz. Some great songs on this record, but also some weaker tracks and some songs that seem a bit like filler. I like Mustafa a lot. I like Jealousy and Bicycle Race, and Don't Stop Me Now is great. But it also has songs that I don't care for as much. Fat Bottom Girls, I could take or leave. It's a bit overrated. If You Can't Beat 'Em, Let Me Entertain You, Fun It, Dead on Time. Not that great of songs. Number 7, going with News of the World. This record unfortunately has We Will Rock You on it, which is probably their most overrated song. To me, it's really just a novelty track, and not a very interesting one at that. But there's some other songs here that I really love. Probably 3 of my favorite Queen tracks, songs that I think should rank among their all-time classics that are often overlooked. All Dead, which is probably my favorite Brian May song. Spread Your Wings is fantastic, and so is It's Late. Not much else on this record that I care for all that much, but those 3 songs make it worthwhile. Number 6, I'm going with Hot Space. So as a young Queen fan, this was my least favorite Queen record because it wasn't a rock album. There was hardly any guitar on the record. Now that I'm older and my tastes have broadened and I listen to a lot more different types of music, I really enjoy this one actually. They're doing kind of a very minimal R&B sort of thing with synth bass in most of the tracks. I think it's very cool. And probably sounded very ahead of its time. I like Staying Power a lot. I think the horns on it are fantastic. Back chat's really cool. Body Language. Love the song Cool Cat. And of course you've got Under Pressure here as well, which is one of the greatest songs of all time. So it's a very good record. The songs here that actually are the weaker tracks are the songs that have more guitar on them. They feel kind of like the token rock songs that are thrown in there just to appease the segment of their audience that they know is going to be upset by their new direction. So actually I don't care for those songs as much. Alright, so number 5, I'm going to go with Queen 2. Very epic sounding record, very theatrical. This is the record where Brian May really gets into the layering and harmonizing the guitars, develop that sort of signature sound that he became known for. It's a very fun listen, but the tracks themselves aren't super memorable, not really a catchy bunch of songs. I like Father to Son, Someday, One Day, Ogre Battle is probably the best song on the record. The Fairy Fellers, Masterstroke, Seven Seas of Rye, those are all pretty cool songs. So yeah, it's a good record. Number 4, going with The Game. This was how Queen kicked off the 80s. The new look, short hair, leather jackets on the cover, and just a bunch of great songs. John Deacon particularly shines on this record. Bass lines on another one, Bites the Dust and Dragon Attack, are fantastic. Play the Game is a great song. Need Your Loving Tonight, Sail Away Sweet Sister, and of course Save Me is a fantastic song to close the record. Very strong set of songs. Okay, so at number 3 I'm going with their debut record, simply titled Queen. Don't think too many people would probably put this album quite as high on the list, but I've always been really drawn to this record. I love the sound of it. No one else ever really sounded like this. It's a theatrical sound, but not as over the top as they would eventually become. You've got elements of hard rock, psychedelic rock, pastoral folk, even a little bit of like American Southern rock. It's a very, very unique blend of influences. You can tell it was recorded pretty quickly. It's a bit rough around the edges, gives it a lot of character, and it's just a great bunch of songs. They're all very memorable tunes. I love Doing All Right, Great King Rat, My Fairy King, Liar, Jesus, Modern Times Rock and Roll. Really, every song is really, really great. Number 2, I'm going with A Day at the Races. So this is sort of the more polished, more cohesive and uniform sounding version of A Night at the Opera. Just great songs all the way through. Every song is great. Fantastic harmonies throughout, of course. You know, Take My Breath Away, Long Away, Millionaire Waltz, of course, Somebody to Love, White Man, Good Old Fashioned Lover Boy. Just really Queen at their peak. And then at number 1, I'm going with A Night at the Opera. One of the best albums of all time. One of the craziest albums ever made. It jumps from genre to genre, different styles all over this. The album is not cohesive at all, but somehow it all works. Just a brilliant record. Everything from Death on Two Legs to Seaside Rendezvous, the Prophet Song. Love of My Life is a fantastic love song. Bohemian Rhapsody, 39, just a ton of great songs, and a band really just exploring and changing what was possible in rock music. So yeah, that's my Queen listography. If you like the video, hit like, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell for notifications. And if you'd like, leave a comment, tell me what I got wrong and what your Queen list would be. Thanks for watching, guys. See you next time.